Well, hello everybody, and thank you ever so much for tuning in. I want to take a moment of your time just to announce that pre-sales of my new hardcover book, Land and Light, are now available for pre-order. Now, I have decided to go with a pre-order so that I can not only get an idea of how well received the book might be, but also to help pay for the production of the book. I am hopeful that, all going well, the book should be ready to ship in June. Now, of course, this could change, but that is currently my goal. So what is Land and Light? Well, in my first book, Quiet Light, I showcased a selection of my better known and favorite photographs from just over 30 years of nature photography. Quiet Light was well received, but I did feel that if I did produce another portfolio style book, I would like to add several anecdotes and stories to give you more context and insight into perhaps my personal life and the hows and whys of why I took the photographs. Incidentally, Quiet Light is still available from Kozu Books, and a reprint of my zine Aspen that showcases some of my best work taken a couple of years ago in the Canadian Rockies with my good friend Jeremy Jackson is now available as well. So I'll leave a link to those books below. Now, Land and Light will showcase 96 photographs and 33 short essays accompanying the images. Now, quite a few of the photographs are from my years of shooting with 4x5 film, which is quite interesting as my shooting style has definitely changed since those days. I just can't believe that I used to lug that thing up mountains and backpacking. Now, for this book, I am incredibly grateful to have my good buddy Alistair Ben write the foreword, and the very talented photographer Eric Bennett write the introduction. Land and Light will be my first self-published hardcover book, so I am really excited, but I am a little bit anxious about its success, as I'm sure many of my fellow photographers who have published books themselves have gone through. I'd just like to take a moment to read one of the stories that I've written to give you an idea of what I write about in the book. My first visit to Iceland was in 2013. The plan was to rent a camper and spend a few weeks circumnavigating the island. Not only did I plan to photograph the stunning landscape, but I also wanted to view and photograph the aurora. So I scheduled my visit for March to maximize my chances. When I landed in Reykjavik, I thought I'd made a big mistake. Iceland was in the middle of a blizzard, and the question suddenly dawned on me of how on earth I could navigate the country if the storm lasted for the whole trip. After all, it was still technically winter. I even called my partner Karen to tell her I might be home early. Very early. My first obstacle was that I had to pick up my car in Reykjavik. No big deal, I thought. I'll hop on the shuttle bus to take me to the city. The only problem was I couldn't find it. As soon as I walked out of the terminal, the visibility was so bad I could barely see a couple of meters in front of me, let alone a spotted bus. And to make matters worse, the snow was so deep I had trouble dragging my bags behind me. Now I knew I'd made a mistake. I trudged around for what seemed like hours until finally I found the shuttle bus and jumped on board. On normal days, the trip from the airport to Reykjavik is relatively straightforward, but this trip ended up being far from ordinary. What should have taken 40 minutes dragged on for 4 hours. The roads were awful. What the hell was I doing here, I thought. My thoughts at this point were not good ones. What if I had to spend 2 weeks in a hotel? I'd go broke. At the end of the day, I did end up spending an unplanned night in a hotel, but to my relief, I awoke the following day to fair skies. I quickly figured out that Iceland has weather like Scotland or the Faroe Islands, in that it can be miserable 1 minute, but wait 5 and the weather will change. It was now time to pick up my camper. Car rentals in Iceland are obscenely expensive, and being on the cheap side, I decided to rent a camper from the most inexpensive car rental company I could find, Cuckoo Campers. The vehicle was advertised as a camper, but in reality, it was just a tiny van crudely customized to sleep 2 people. The van was a Renault Kangoo with a portrait of a person who vaguely resembled Billy Idol roughly spray painted on the side. But the creme de la creme were the words "Flesh for Fantasy" boldly painted next to Billy's face. Pure class. Inside the vehicle, a rudimentary metal frame formed the bed, and each night the metal structure had to be assembled so that I could stretch myself out horizontally. The biggest hassle was crawling in and out of the van, since the space from my head to ceiling was barely a foot. And since I'm 6'2", the task proved challenging at best. It probably would have helped if I was a contortionist, especially on those nightly occasions when I desperately had to pee. Overall, camping in the little Kangoo was a bit of a palaver, especially when Karen joined me on the second week, but despite the hassle, it was a reasonably comfortable van that ultimately worked out to be way cheaper than hotels and a lot more convenient. Despite the tight squeeze and the camper's shortcomings, the Flesh for Fantasy mobile took me around the circumference of Iceland a couple of times. I must admit, Billy's portrait brightened my days, especially on those gloomier drives in drab weather. Since that first trip, I have travelled to Iceland a couple more times, and even though its popularity has risen in the last several years, meaning it can get quite touristy, it is undoubtedly a fantastic country that offers incredible photo opportunities. My favourite locations tend to be the interior highlands. The landscape is surreal and, of course, generally has fewer people roaming around. The highlands offer the photographer a chance to photograph the less obvious and put their unique stamp on this remarkable part of the world. Now, the 12.5-inch by 10.5-inch book comes in two different flavors. The regular book showcases beautiful light over my favorite wilderness area on Vancouver Island, Pacific Spirit National Park. The special edition book will be encased in stylish cloth and embossed with the same photograph in the center portion of the cover. This book also comes with an equally elegant slipcase and an original print hand-printed and signed by myself. Now, for those of you who have ordered a book, thank you ever so much. I really appreciate it. I also know that quite a few people are on the fence about the book due to its high price, especially the shipping costs to Europe and the rest of the world. Unfortunately, shipping is a killer for many small businesses like mine, since it can make or break a sale. And unfortunately for me, Canada has some of the highest shipping costs in the world. I have even gone as far as complaining to my local government official, who, in all fairness, did bring the issue up in the Houses of Parliament in Ottawa, but of course it went on deaf ears. The answer was, as usual, we're looking into it. So for my European friends, I am sorry. However, I am looking into some distribution from the UK, so stay tuned, as I may be able to at least send the book to those of you who want one with a few bucks in savings. I'll announce the news as it comes my way. Thank you ever so much for your continued support. It is very much appreciated. And here is to a prosperous and peaceful 2024. Thanks, guys.